If you're taking summer classes, your brain is going to tell you that it is different than your normal spring and fall semester classes. It is going to tell you that it's harder. It's going to try to tell you that you don't know what to do to pass this class. And I want to offer that that is a whole damn lie. There actually isn't that much different between a fall spring term course and a summer course. The only difference between a summer course and a fall/spring term course is the timeline. And here's what I mean by that. You're going to go from having 16 weeks to learn the content to having 5 to 8 weeks to learn the content. You're going to go from having one exam maybe every month to having one exam every week. You're going to go to having lecture maybe 2 to 3 times a week to having lecture every single day. You might have to go from having 50-minute lectures to 3-hour lectures. But the things that you do to learn, understand, and retain the content are the same things that you're gonna have to do in a 16-week course. The only thing that changes is the time frame that you're given to learn the content. That is it. So if you know how to pass a 16-week course, you know how to pass a 5 to 8 week course. The only reason why your brain is offering you that it's different, that it's harder, that you don't know how to approach summer classes is because that is what human brains do. Anytime you introduce change, the human brain is going to say, that's different. We don't know how to do that. But if that happens to you, nothing has gone wrong. It is natural to freak out, but I just want to create this video to remind you that you know what to do. If you actually take the time to think about what is different between a summer class and a 16-week fall spring term class, you will realize that literally the only thing that's different is the time frames that you're given. So what I want to do now is I want to walk you through what I would do if I were taking a 5 to 8 week summer term course. And I want to let you know that if you know how to create a study plan, if you know how to create a weekly schedule, and you know how to get yourself to stick to it, meaning you study when you said that you were going to study, those are the foundational things that you need to do whether you're in a 16-week course or a 5-week course. And if you already understand how to do that, you're going to have no problems with this summer term course because, again, I'm going to say it so many times in this video, the only thing that's different is the timeline. The foundational skill sets that you need to pass a class is the same across the board, no matter when in the year you're taking your classes, because the only thing that ever really changes is the time frame that you're given. Okay, so this is the approach that I take for all of my classes, and this is the process that I teach to the students who work with me as their life coach for college students. This is the same framework that I teach inside of my group coaching program, Educated the Art of Becoming a Good Student. And we start with priming. So priming is when you take the time at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the term, the moment that you're handed the syllabus, to actually go through in depth and decode your syllabus. What you're doing while you're going through your syllabus is you are trying to understand what is the whole point of this class. I know that we're going to cover X, Y, and Z topic, but why are we covering that topic? How am I expected to use this content? How is my professor going to test to make sure that I've actually learned what I was supposed to learn in this class? I have a video in my YouTube channel already on how to make the most of your course syllabus, how to use your course syllabus to actually create a study guide for yourself so that you know exactly what to do, exactly what to focus on to get an A or a B in the course. And I will make sure that the link to that video is either in the description box or shows up somewhere on this screen. So once you've taken the time, 30 minutes, to actually go through your syllabus, so that you know what the point of this class is and you know exactly how you're going to be tested and you know why you're covering everything that you're covering, the next thing that you need to do is you need to build out your study plan. Now, I teach building out study plans in 3 steps. So there's the exposure. So this is your note taking. You need to decide how you're going to learn this content, right? Because taking notes, I've said it before in another video, is your notes are just a physical representation of the thinking that you did about the content. That's what's actually in your notes. So you're going to take time to take notes. Then you're going to take time to actually quiz yourself on those notes. So that's step 2 of my study plan. Step 3 of my study plan is to get help when I'm realizing that I have knowledge gaps. So step 1 is decide what you're going to do for your notes. How are you going to have a physical representation of all the thinking that you did with the content? Step number 2 is to test to make sure that you actually know what you're supposed to know. And then step number 3 is when you realize, hey, I have these knowledge gaps. There are certain topics that I'm not quite understanding. What are you going to do to get help and support? So let me show you what I mean by that. So I always have my students decide where they're going to take their notes from. So where between the lecture and the textbook, right? Because those are typically the 2 places. And when I talk about lecture, I'm also talking about the PowerPoint. So between the lecture, PowerPoint, and the textbook, how are you going to make sense of all this information that you're being given? And then how are you going to have a physical representation of that understanding inside of your notes? So my students will either pick of one of 2 places. So they'll have a primary place that can either be lecture, PowerPoint, or the textbook. And then they have a secondary place. Again, could be lecture, PowerPoint, or the textbook. But I want you to pick one. So for this summer class, I'm going to decide that the main place that I'm going to think about, learn, spend time trying to understand the concepts that are being taught is going to be in lecture. So that's where I'm going to do a majority of my thinking. This is where I'm going to really think about, okay, why is this relevant? Why is this important? How does this relate to what we're supposed to be doing in this class? And that's what I'm going to be writing in my notes. And then I'm going to have a secondary place that I can go to if I'm having trouble understanding. And for me, that's going to be the textbook. So majority of the time, I'm going to be really focusing and paying attention in lecture, and that's going to be where I create my notes from. If I am testing myself and I'm realizing, crap, I don't understand this. Why did he do this again? Why is this important? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the textbook to fill in those knowledge gaps. So my primary is going to be the lecture / PowerPoint, and then I have a backup in case I missed something in lecture or it didn't quite make sense the way that the professor explained it. I'm going to go to the textbook to see, okay, how does the textbook explain it? Do they have any examples that'll help me make better sense of it or understand it a little bit better? And then I'm going to make sure that I have someone or some place that I can go to for additional help and support. So I prefer to either go to office hours or do tutoring that the school offers or hire a private tutor. Those are the 2 main places that I tend to go to for help. I go directly to the source, which is the professor, or I go and I get some additional help with tutoring. So that's going to be my study plan. So I'm going to take my notes primarily from lecture. If I'm having trouble understanding things from lecture, I'm going to use my textbook to kind of fill in those knowledge gaps inside of my notes. And then if I need a lot of help understanding, making sense of concepts, then I'm going to choose to first go to office hours with my professor if they're available so that I can have all of my questions answered so that he or she can spend a lot of time explaining things to me. Or I'm going to use those 30-minute tutoring sessions that my school offers to have someone else help me. That's going to be my study plan. So once that study plan is complete, because these summer classes move so quickly, I need to make sure that I'm on top of things. I need to make sure that I actually have the time to do the study plan. I need to make sure that I have the time to attend lecture. I need to make sure that I have the time to test and quiz myself to make sure that I'm understanding what it is that I need to do. And I need to make sure that if I do need additional help, I have time to go to office hours or I have time to go to tutoring. So I'm going to make sure that I build out my weekly study schedule. And again, on this video, I have another video all on time blocking, on how I build out my weekly schedule as a student. I will link that in the description box. Once all of that is plugged into my schedule, the final thing that I need to do is just show up for it. I know what I'm going to do. I know what my study plan is. I know where in my week I have time for all of these things. So the final thing is just getting myself to do what I said that I was going to do when I said that I was going to do it. And that has nothing to do with motivation. It has nothing to do with discipline. It has everything to do with my mindset. So I make sure that every single day I'm coaching myself, that I'm reminding myself of why this is important, that I am doing the mental work, the thought work to get myself to show up, because everything that we do and everything that we don't do, we do it because of how we're thinking about it. So I'm going to make sure that I'm really paying attention to what my mindset is so that I'm showing up the way that I desire to show up as a college student. And that is how I approach every single class, no matter where in the semester I'm taking the class, whether it's a 16-week class, whether it's a 5-week class, whether it's a summer class, whether it's a fall class, whether it's a spring class, it doesn't matter. The foundation is the same. It really doesn't change. And the analogy that I'm going to give you is this. If you were building a house and you only had 4 months to build the house versus the year, let's say, that you typically have to build the house, you wouldn't change the way that you build the house. You would just figure out how to get things done faster. So you might hire more of a crew. You might actually work on the weekends instead of just working typically Monday through Friday. You might get creative with how you're using your time. You will try to make use of every resource that you have available to you, but you're still going to have the basic framework of a house. You're still going to have your basement. You're still going to have, the walls. You're still going to have cutouts for the windows. Like, nothing about building a house changes when your timeline changes. You just figure out how to fit it in to the time frame it is that you have. And sometimes that means bringing in more support. Sometimes it means taking advantage of resources that you wouldn't typically take advantage of. But the basic foundations of building a house doesn't change. It's the same thing with your study plan. It's the same thing with the process that you take to help yourself earn the grade it is that you want in the class. So your brain is going to tell you this is different, and I'm here to offer you that it's not. If you've been able to pass a 16-week class, you can pass a 5 to 8-week class. The steps do not change. Your time frame is the only thing that changes.